Okay, well, most of us are back by now, so we go ahead and get started. Now this year, much like Steve and Lincoln, and I'm sure most of y'all, this time of year is one of my favorites ever. I do like fall better. I like pumpkins, and I like pumpkin patches. But Christmas is like, it's a really close second, right? And I really like giving, and I really like getting presents. I don't know about y'all. I'm just going to be completely honest. And so far, I have guessed 3. Is it 3 or 4? 3. 3 of the presents that Lakin is going to give me. One of them wasn't her fault. We were at Target a while ago, and we were with her parents, and her mom hid it in the cart. She didn't do a good job at all, and so I figured that one out. The other one, she just put a watch from Walmart in the buggy while we were at Walmart a while ago. It was on sale, $9 for a really nice watch. It was awesome, but she said I have to wait until Sunday. I don't know why. And the other one, she won't admit that I know what it is, but I know what it is, you know. So that'll be fun. But I have always liked this time of year because it seems like when we get around the holidays, usually, it's a whole lot nicer, right? People are thinking about giving more. People are thinking about being nice more, you know. You'll see the Salvation Army's buckets that are, you know, outside of Walmart, and with the Santa that's got a bell, and then you'll see people, you know, giving to that. You have toy drives. I tell you, back home, the fire department always had this toy drive that they would do, they would put on, and they would just get loads and loads of presents. It was great for the kids. And it's really, you know, this time of year, it's nice. It's nicer than a whole lot of the other times. You know, it reminds me of a person that I don't think we talk about enough in the Bible, in Acts chapter 9. Now, in Acts chapter 9, you know, the big thing that happens in Acts chapter 9 is what? It's Paul, right? It's when Saul turns into Paul, and it's awesome. But there is another story in there towards the end of chapter 9 that I don't think we talk about enough, but it's really good. It's really awesome. And it can give us a whole lot of lessons that we can take from. Acts chapter 9, starting in verse 32, starts out talking about Peter. It says, "Now as Peter was traveling through all those regions, he came down also to the saints who lived at Lydda. And there he found a man named Aeneas, who had been bedridden 8 years, and he was paralyzed. Peter said to him, Aeneas, Jesus Christ heals you. Get up and make your bed. Immediately he got up. And all who lived at Lydda and Sharon saw him, and they turned to the Lord." And so that's a great story. That's not the one that we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about the next one. In verse 36, here's what we read. "Now in Joppa, there was a disciple named Tabitha, which translated in Greek is called Dorcas. And this woman was abounding with deeds of kindness and charity, which she continually did." And so here we have this lady named Tabitha. The Greek name for her is Dorcas. And, you know, she is one of the very few people in the Bible that we read nothing bad about. You know, there's Joseph, maybe Daniel, you know, these guys, you know, you don't hardly hear anything bad about them. But Dorcas, man, there's not a single bad word about her, right? The Bible says in verse 36 that she was kind, she was charitable, and this was her life, right? This wasn't a once a year kind of thing for her. This is what she did, as it says, continually. But in verse 37, we find out that she got sick and she died. And so that was a terrible thing. The people, they washed her body, they laid it in the upper room, And since Lydda was near Joppa, in verse 38, the disciples, having heard that Peter was there, sent 2 men to him, imploring him, "Do not delay in coming to us." And so they heard that Peter was there. The guy that could do all of these great things, they had probably already met him at this point. And so they sent for him. And so Peter arose in verse 39 and went with them. When he arrived, they brought him into the upper room, and all the widows stood beside him, weeping and showing all the tunics and garments that Dorcas used to make while she was with them. But Peter sent them all out and kneeled down and prayed. Turning to the body, he said, "Tabitha, arise." And she opened her eyes, and when she saw Peter, she sat up. And he gave her his hand and raised her up. And calling the saints and widows, he presented her alive. Wouldn't it be awesome if all the time, every month of the year, every day of the week, all year round, we could be known as a people like Tabitha, right? Someone who was known for living a life of just being good, of being charitable, of being kind, of putting others before ourselves. This Christmas season that we're in right now, this is the time that a lot of people think about doing stuff like that. But as Christians, the Bible calls her a disciple, right? As we all are, disciples of Christ. As a Christian, we ought to all be doing this all the time. And, I'm not talking to anybody in here but myself when I say that I can do better. I could do better showing that type of love to people that are out, on the street, to people that don't have anybody else. We just got done talking. We were in 1 Peter for y'all that weren't in here. And 1 Peter talks about taking care of widows, taking care of the people that don't have anybody else. Well, there's so many people in this world that don't have anybody else. But it is equally true and the more pressing issue is that there are so many people that don't have Jesus. And it is my hope and it's my prayer that as we continue to grow spiritually, and as we continue to reach out into this community that is Huntsville, that we will be able to reach more people that need Jesus. But tonight, I just challenge us all to ask ourselves, are we a Dorcas? Are we somebody that people just look at and think, wow, that is a good person. But more than that, more than a good person, that person shows the love of Christ. Because the love of Christ is what all of us ought to be showing each and every single day. Because that kind of love, people need a whole lot more of that love than they're getting. Matthew chapter 5 tells us to be a light. It tells us that we are a shining light into the world. More than that, it tells us that we are the light of the world. Well, it also says that Jesus is the light of the world. I just want us to think about what a huge responsibility that is. That we, Christians, disciples of Christ, are called the same thing that Jesus is referred to as, the light of the world. And as we go throughout this Christmas season and as we go out through the rest of this coming up year, I hope that we'll all keep that in our minds and keep that on our hearts, to be that light, to be a Dorcas, to be someone that shows Christ all the time. And so tonight, if you are a Christian, but you have sin in your life, if sin has gotten a hold of you, if Satan has you in his clutches, that's what Christ is for. That's what Christ came here to set us free from. He came to set us free from the bondage of sin. And He can do that. We have a great thing called mercy. And it's because of that mercy that Christ will forgive us when we fall short. If you have never been baptized, and you need to do that. If you have never given your life to Christ, there's no better time than right now. But if you need anything else, for a lot of people, the holidays are not great. For whatever reason. And there's plenty of really, real reasons. Sometimes we just need a little bit more encouragement. We just need a little bit more love. And so tonight, if you have any need whatsoever, I pray that you will come forward now as we stand and as we sing.
Careless soul.